Hello again, everybody. Another video in the series about the chromatic harmonica. This time I think I have to go a little bit more technical. I have to get into the really nitty-gritty little details, and what I want to talk about in this video is how a chromatic harmonica is laid out. What does that mean? Where do I start? How do I explain this? Now, a chromatic harmonica is basically two harmonicas in one. As I've explained, I think it was in video number 2 or maybe 3. So basically you've got one harmonica that plays now, and when you push the slider it opens up another harmonica which is otherwise hidden. So basically you've got two harmonicas there. See that? It's easier to see than on my other chromatic. So that's how it works. Now, what does this slider actually do? Every note on the whole harmonica, anywhere, every note, any note you play without the slider, you play a normal note, and every time you press the slider it goes up by one semitone or a half note. Doesn't matter which note, anywhere on the whole harmonica, wherever you push the slider, the note goes up by one semitone or a half note. You can test this out, very simple. Play any note, it doesn't matter whether it's blow or draw, without the slider, and then push the slider, and you find that the note goes up just a little notch by one semitone. Any note, wherever across the whole harmonica, when you push the slider the note goes up a little bit. Basically that's what we call a sharp. So instead of a natural note you sharpen it by pressing the button. By pressing the slider you sharpen it. Okay? So if you play a C, then you press the button, you play a C sharp. An E, you play an F, and then you play with the button in, you play an F sharp, etc, etc, etc. So the chromatic harmonica only has sharps. Now this sounds a bit technical, but I'll get to the meaning of that later on. Knowing this, basically it means that quite a few notes are doubled up in the harmonica. And I'll explain what this means. If you play a scale in the key of C, and certain notes only go up already by only one semitone. For instance, if you blow in hole 2, which is an E, then the next draw note, so 2 draw, is an F. That's a semitone. So what happens if you play an E, so blow 2, and then you press the slider, you get the same note. So instead of an F you can play an E sharp, because they're actually both the same notes. How do you find these notes? It's just by simply whether to press a slider and see if it's the same note as the next note that you would normally play without a slider. Sounds a bit technical, I know, what we're going to get into the technical aspects of the chromatic harmonica now. So try it for every note. So if you start on the C, hole 1, draw 1, that's different. I don't know if this makes sense, but anyway, just to show you, this means that there are actually, there's 2 harmonicas, and the second harmonica, the one that you open up by pressing the slider, is basically 1 semitone higher everywhere, all across the harmonica, everywhere, for every note. If you know that, then you can play, you find that certain notes you can play in 2 ways, either as a blow or as a draw. For instance, hole 2, the blow with slider is the same note as 2 draw. Just try it out for yourself. Just familiarize yourself with these notes and see what the difference is between pressing the slider and the next note, and etc. So that's how the harmonica actually works and how it's all laid out. Basically it's double, which also means that you get quite a lot of double notes on your harmonica. Basically, and I explained that, I think it was in the very first video in this series, I explained that a diatonic harmonica covers 3 octaves, if you remember. Do you remember the diatonic harmonica? 10 holes, 3 octaves. If not, have a look at video number 1 again. This 12-hole chromatic is actually also a 3-octave harmonica. Every 4 holes is 1 octave. And what is an octave? An octave is a tone ladder. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And in the hole 1 you get do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Do, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. That's how you get a tone ladder. And the second octave is exactly the same, the second 4 holes. Ta da 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 ta da 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 da. Just let this sink in, watch it again, etc, etc. So every 4 holes is 1 octave. 4 holes, and then the last 4 holes. Every 4 holes is an octave, and each octave is an exact copy of each other. Only the notes are an octave higher. So if we play the first 4 holes, and then I play the next 4 holes, and the next 4 holes, exactly the same tone ladder, works exactly the same way, only the notes are higher or lower. Also, that means that you get quite, for those of you who are into music theory, and unfortunately if you get into the technical details, you have to have a little bit of theory. It can't be avoided just to understand how this harmonica works. So, for instance, in hole 2, you get 2 Fs. One is the blow with slider, and the other one is the draw. The same happens in hole 4. Draw 4 with a slider is the same note as 4 blow. Try it out, try it out. And again, this happens all across the harmonica. And why is that? It's only because this is how the harmonica is laid out, how it's designed, just to make it easier to play. Just every octave is exactly the same. So your first octave is blow, draw, blow, draw, blow, draw, draw, blow. And the second octave is also blow, draw, blow, draw, blow, draw, draw, blow, and etc. It's just to make it easier to play. Easier to understand. Right, so that's basically the layout. Then what you need to do when you start playing tunes is to start playing scales. I know this is a word that is not very popular. Yeah, it can't be avoided. If you really want to learn how to play the harmonica, you have to learn how to play scales. Now the first one is the harmonica is in the key of C. So the first key, the scale that you learn, is a tone ladder in the key of C. I've done another video on my channel about playing in different keys. So if you're not sure what you're looking at, just have a look at that video. Look on my channel, playing in different keys. But anyway, so when you really want to start playing this chromatic harmonica seriously, what you need to start doing is to play scales. Now the first one to learn is the scale in the key of C, which is hole 1, just start on hole 1, blow draw, hole 2, blow draw, hole 3, blow draw, and hole 4 is the other way around, draw blow. And then carry on with hole 5, same again, blow draw, blow draw, blow draw, draw blow. Try to play that scale of C, and you cannot practice this enough. Just every day, whenever you feel like it, whenever you pick this harmonica up, it could be a nice little warm-up exercise just to warm your harmonica up, like I explained in the video before this one. Just get used to playing the scale. So you start with the scale in C. You don't need the slider for anything. You can do this over 1 octave, 2 octaves, 3 octaves. So I would recommend just to do it in the first 2 octaves, that's enough. As long as you get used to how to play a tone ladder, because that's what it is. Yeah, we call it a scale, but a tone ladder. That's basically what it is. It's a tone ladder. And the more you get used to it, the quicker you can play this. Get used to it. It really helps to understand a piece of music later on when you want to play a tune, etc. What I personally also would recommend, if you play a chromatic harmonica, is to play at least 2 different scales. What do I mean by that? And again, I've got another video on my channel about playing in different scales. So if you're not sure what you're looking at, watch that video first and then come back to this one. It really, I can't recommend this enough. If you start playing the chromatic harmonica, learn 2 different scales. Doesn't matter which one, as long as you practice 2 different scales. And I'm just going to mention one scale here to start with, and that is, just for practicing purposes, is the scale of E flat. I just explained how this harmonica works, so we've only got sharps. What does that mean? If I need to play an E flat on a chromatic harmonica, I need to play the note before the E, which is a D, and then press the slider. Let this sink in. Just watch this again. So an E flat on a chromatic harmonica, you play a D and then you push the slider in. So the note before the E and you push the slider. That is an E flat. I will get into the difference between flats and sharps maybe in the next few videos. I don't know when yet, because that's another subject altogether. But what I would recommend is, if you start playing scales, play 2 different scales. And there's one that I can really recommend that you start doing. Sorry, I'm looking away. I'm just having a writing this down for myself. Have a pen and paper. Just write this down. So instead of blow, draw, blow, draw, blow, draw, draw, blow from hole 1, now you start on hole 1, draw with slider. 1 draw slider. That's the first note. The second note is 2 blow with slider or 2 draw. Either way, it can be. Yeah, write this down. If you don't, come back to it later on. The third note is the 3 blow. Then 3 blow with slider. 3 draw with slider. 5 blow. 5 draw. 5 draw slider. Watch this back. Write it down. That's the key of E flat. Just as an example. So instead of going, you start on E flat. If you follow the numbers, the whole numbers that I've just given you, you can play in E flat. The reason why, and I've seen so many chromatic players that have never tried playing the chromatic harmonica in different scales, and all they do is play everything in the key of the harmonica, everything in the key of C. When you do that for 2 to 3 years on end, when you get really really confident in your playing and you can start playing tunes and etc., then after 2-3 years, and probably also to do something with age, and then start to play different keys, it just messes with your head. It gets really complicated. So the best thing to do is, from the moment you start learning a chromatic harmonica, is learn at least 2 different scales. Just so you get used to, not all the time a do has to be a blow, or a re has to be a draw. So basically the chromatic harmonica has got 12 hidden diatonic harmonicas hidden inside here, because you can actually play a chromatic harmonica in any kind of different key, scale, etc. Get used to that, get used to that. So instead of learning only blow, draw, blow, draw, 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 blow, just try to learn another scale as well. So basically you're learning 2 different harmonicas hidden in your chromatic harmonica. I've just given you the key of E flat just as an example. Why E flat? Because first of all, jazz players really like flat keys. So if you use a chromatic harmonica and you're interested in jazz music, E flat is a very easy key, and it lies very well with jazz players particularly. Also, E flat starts also in hole 1. Because some of the keys, not all keys are as easy as each other. For instance, B flat is quite difficult because you only get 2 blow notes and the rest is all draw notes. The key of D, for instance, is very difficult as well. Same effect, you only got, I think, three blow notes and the rest is all draw notes. So there's a lot of draws. So the E flat gives you quite a mixture between blows and draws, so you keep your breath control. So basically any kind of scale that you learn to play, you need to learn the breath pattern. So draw, draw, blow, draw, blow, blow, draw, blow, draw, draw, etc. That's it, that's the E flat. So you need to learn the breathing pattern for your notes. Yeah, so C is blow, draw, blow, draw, draw. No, sorry, blow, draw, blow, draw, blow, draw, draw, blow, etc. So different keys have different breathing patterns. Get used to at least 2 different breathing patterns. Another thing is if you certain keys, if for instance if you play the key of A, the key of A on a 12-hole chromatic is quite high. It gets you into the higher registers because it only starts on hole 3. So the notes get quite high, and E flat is quite nice at the lower end of the harmonica. That's why I'm suggesting E flat just as a practice scale. We will get into different scales later on in the series as well, but at least start playing scales, tone ladders, and if you can, do it in C as well as in E flat. That's basically the start of playing tunes, playing melodies, etc. So you need to know your scales, and then you can start playing tunes and melodies. I hope this makes sense. Again, we're now getting a bit into the technical aspects of playing the chromatic harmonica, and unfortunately that also means that I have to discuss a few things that you would class as music theory, I suppose. And it doesn't, you have to know a little bit of theory just to understand what you're doing. So you can't avoid any kind of theory whatsoever. But again, I have got another video about playing in different keys on a chromatic harmonica. Watch that video please, come back to this one and write down the scale that I mentioned out with the whole numbers in this one, and then please start to practice in 2 different keys. So I would suggest to start with is C and E flat. Again, you can do any other keys. Just for the sake of it, E flat, that is E flat, second note is an F, G, A flat, B flat, C, D, E flat. For those of you who are used to note names, who are maybe a bit more into musical theory, that's the key of E flat major. So I hope you start practicing these scales, C, and if you can, E flat. And then hopefully you'll come back to my next video. Thanks for watching and good luck with this one. Thank you.